Hello citizens of Disneyland, Brickey here with an update for Disneyland in the month of May 2023. We're going to check on Fantasmic, Tarzan's Treehouse, look at Splash Mountain, and all the other things that are going on right now, like Matterhorn and 3 rides that are closing next month. What do you say? Let's take a lap around Disneyland and find everything that's happening right now at the park that you need to know about. When we look into the rivers of America, we can see that there are 3 major projects off the edges of the shores. Tarzan's Treehouse, Tianas place, and of course, the transformation of Fantasmic here on Tom Sawyer's Island. Not really a ton to see other than the actual footprint of where they're working on where Murphy had his literal meltdown. But it's cool to see crews coming and going all day long working on this, trying to get this back as quickly as possible, as Fantasmic is a big part of the summer celebration here at Disneyland. We'll keep a look on this to see how it all comes together and matures over the course of the next couple of months. But I think Fantasmic will be back, and then I believe that probably staggered after that will be Murphy, and they will use B mode, where the dragon is just projected on the water of the rivers of America. But I think probably first and foremost they just want to get the show back for everybody. And there you can see really the scale of this project with the different ramps going down. I've seen workers going in and out of there all day. Down here on the shoreline you can see that little cave that has a chain pulley there as well as a tarp. And inside you can see that that's where the crew's actually been working. Some walls that have been erected on the edge of the boats that take you over to Tom Sawyer's Island. So even workers in there moving around right now. I can see a 5-gallon Home Depot bucket as well as their feet shuffling it about. So Disney going all out to get Fantasmic back as soon as possible. There you can see a cast member blocking off the area where the other cast members are doing the construction work, keeping people away from this spot. Hey, what's up, Goose? Shout out to Canada. Now you can see her there on her post, making sure that nobody tries to go over to the edge of the island where the workers are trying their hardest to bring Murphy back. I'm assuming as soon as possible.
Please make your way down to the first deck. The stairway to the right side in the back of the boat.
But the island still is open. Shout out to Dad and Son having a picnic they'll always remember. Friends, I'm standing over on the edge of the Adventureland Treehouse, and here's a little bit of numbers for you. Disneyland was built in 365 days. Actually, 364. Disneyland was closed over the COVID-19 pause for 440 days. Yet this has taken 600 plus days and counting. No release or opening on the calendar. So somehow, this has been more work than a global pandemic and building Disneyland back in Walt's vision from '64 to July 17, 1955. Absolutely amazing when you think about this from those numbers. All right, friends, we're over on the edge of Adventureland, exactly where Adventureland ends and a new adventure begins, and that adventure is called New Orleans Square. But we're looking at formerly Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, then Tarzan's Treehouse, and now kind of just the overall Adventureland Treehouse. And I have to be honest, the construction has been so long that I kind of, at this point, don't even care. And I don't want to sound, bratty, like I didn't get my new Christmas toy fast enough, so now I'm going to be a baby and I don't care about it. But literally, I've kind of lost a lot of imagination over this project just because it has drained on needlessly for way too long. And I'm excited when it comes back. I'll definitely check it out like many of you all will. But what will people do over the long term? Everybody seems very concerned about when this comes back. How big of a visit will it be for you on your next trip after the first couple of times that you've come here? So starting at the very top, we have this top observation deck, which you can see that there is some materials out there on that deck. Looks like they're still working on that. Then if we take our stairwell down, we have another little break point in the stairs, which will give us a good look out over into the Pirates of the Caribbean queue and building, as well as the water that flows below there. And then in the center, we have this main structure that has the mass of a boat coming off the front. You can see how it's broken and decayed on the bottom. And then they have the windows in there all sort of draped out. Shout out to drape, so we can't see what's going. And then there's the hut over here on the far side. But yeah, 600 days. Disneyland was built in a year. Refurbishing a Treehouse is 600 days. Don't get me wrong, I'll be excited when it comes back, but they're obviously staggering this out for some sort of, I think, secondary release, right? Like, I feel like this is going to be aligned with something over on Disney Plus, whether it's Swiss Family related or SEA related, because there's also a project that Roger Moore, who worked on Battlestar Galactica from the early 2000s, has a project in the works for that. So, it seems to me that they're kind of making it a sort of maybe a basic Adventureland Treehouse, so that if one of these different irons in the fire really pops, that they can then quickly modify it to be adjoined to a hit intellectual property. It'd be great to get it back. I love the views. For somebody who films in the park, it's amazing. But I don't know. I've just kind of lost a little bit of interest on this because it has lagged on for just so long. And when we look at the concept art, we can see that there are actually no windows in the organ room, which is the boat that protrudes off that middle layer there. And we also do see that it is the Adventureland Treehouse inspired by Swiss Family Robinson, but there's also SEA nuggets hidden inside of here, as you can see the flag that's hanging off the far east side. So it'll definitely be interesting. You can also see here that it is a loop where you can start by the old school water wheel. You'll be able to work your way up to this little tower. And then as you can see, the lady there in her yellow sundress working her way across the top bridge over to the far western side, where you'll be able to get good views in the rivers of America and Pirates of the Caribbean. And then you can work your way back down to the center base, where then you'll be able to enter and exit in the same spot, just like it was back in Walt's day. So we'll see. It's going slow, real slow. Maybe too slow for me to care anymore. Do you remember a summer ago when the biggest thing on every Disney Parks fan's mind was, oh no, the trees have been removed out front of Pirates of the Caribbean. But the old dead trees are gone. The new trees look healthy. They have lanterns inside of them. I feel like aesthetically they're a better color fit. And we can see the beautiful facade of the Pirates of the Caribbean show building. So yeah, they have a way of doing things that make people upset, because that's the culture that we live in. But in the end, the final product typically makes everything a little bit better. All right, let's wander through New Orleans Square and see what we can see for Tianas place. Is it place or palace that's coming to town? And this Western Inn of Disneyland has been, don't worry, I'm filming me, not you. This Western Inn of Disneyland has been nothing but chaos for it seems like since the park reopened. It's just been nothing but nuts back here. But aside from widening the sidewalks out front, putting a new shop in was one of the many projects that we've seen over on the western end of Disneyland as it's reopened. You know, I haven't been in here since its opening day. Well, I take that back. I've been in here a couple of times. But I thought it would be fun to check back in the spirit of New Orleans. Wow, look at those boas. And look at this peacock one. Wow. I'm definitely loving the illustration style of that New Orleans bag, but even better, look at all the old school lighting fixtures in the ceiling in here. That one right there, Tiana colors. And then as always, behind the register and on the walls, there's always so many fun storytelling devices to make whatever shop you're in feel like it's part of the story or the narrative of the land that it belongs in. These guys, I keep bumping into these guys. Telling you, New Orleans Square is full of so much character and fun. There's a reason why people love it so much. All right, we got construction walls down here. Let's check this out first. So we can see as they work on Tiana's place that they have the whole front of Club Nouveau, the members only lounge is completely blocked off for Club 33 members. But now the walls are protruding out into the patio down below, as I'm sure they're working on the crowd flow at the bottom of the old French market. But hey, big blue construction walls in New Orleans Square, that's nothing new since the park reopened, right? I feel like the entire time it has been open, there's been big blue construction walls, New Orleans blue, right? Like a very, very specific sort of mint green that they use. But here is the concept art, and as you can see, we're standing out on the edge of where the French market used to be, and they now have the entire footprint taken out for whatever they're doing inside of there. No reopening date yet, but I think people are pretty excited to see when this looks like a riverboat just adjacent to where actual riverboats are going by. I dig that. Now what's interesting about this concept art is where they have Tiana inside of Club 33, right inside of there is a small band area where they have a grand piano that sits 365, where any band that comes in can play the grand piano that sits there. But then they also have jazz bands. I've been able to see a tiki band perform in there. They have various bands that play right there where they're showing Princess Tiana. So I'm curious, will she actually go through Club Nouveau, where the 33 members are at, and come out and wave at everybody? Or right over here, there's a real small little room. There's a stairwell that comes up. It's called the Louis Room. It was intended to be designed for John Lasseter. He wanted to be able to have a spot where you could sit there and watch the trains go by. Well, obviously, John is no longer part of Pixar and Disney, so it got named after a guy by the name of Louis that worked on the design of the redo of New Orleans Square. But it's a really small room. It's just big enough for a little two-top table to sit by a window. But it has the emergency exit stairs. So I wonder, will Tiana come up through the Louis Room, come over, will there be a new catwalk, or will she go through the restaurant to come out and wave to everybody where it says Tiana's Palace, but actually on the interior is Club Nouveau, part of Club 33. And then you can see over here in the concept art that the Mint Julep Bar is still there, being as popular as ever. But this is where we're at over here. We're actually standing over here in this corner, about right over here, where they're working on the deck of Tiana's Palace. So it'll be interesting to see how all of this comes together, but I'm kind of fascinated with the meet and greet aspect and how they're going to pull that off and service their most expensive customer and the general admission customer at the exact same time. Fascinated with park operations and how they pull things like this off. And now as we move along to the front of the building, the sunlight is working in our favor because we can see that the traditional roof still exists. But I'm going to work my way on the other side of these two trees to see if we can see any indication of those smokestacks starting to rear from the former edge of the top of this building. All right, so I don't know what you can see at home, but here with my own eyes in the daylight, I can see that there is scaffolding in there where they've already built the scaffolding. They have a work area where the workers could stand up on that second rail to do things that are higher than their natural height. So it does look like they've already got the infrastructure in place to start adding in those smokestacks on top of the building. So let's come up on the edge of the Disneyland Railroad and see if this height advantage gives us any advantage. Oh, and it does. All right, the sun is starting to come out, and we can see this gentleman over here doing some stucco or like some patching, some Bondo over there on the railing. We can see another cast member over there. But as we look up on the building, we can kind of get an idea. Sorry, the train needs our attention. We can now see how far this padding protrudes from the actual shape of the building, giving the workers a lot of room inside of there. So maybe there is something to the theory of trying to put like a different way to get Tiana or characters out on that meet and greet. But yeah, there's a lot of workers in there right now working on the patio. They're working on the pergola that holds up that awning system of canvas sheets that go around it. And then a favorite detail of this land is you can see the pirate flag on top of, well, now it just flew around. It's pirate on the other side, I believe. Maybe my mind was just doing tricks on me. Is it pirate on one side or is it not? Anyways, there are flag posts or flag poles up on top the buildings of New Orleans Square, and those are designed so that when you're out on the edges of the rivers of America, or say the Mark Twain, and you look back, it looks like there's a harbor of ships on the other side. So they're kind of hard to see. They're purposely put pretty far back. But this one that is definitely not a pirate's flag is waving. And if you look down there and that little bit of a keyhole, it's just amazing, such intricate details designed for such very specific views that I often wonder, do most guests ever even notice them? And if they don't, that's fine, because those that do feel like they found a little bit of buried treasure, pun intended. All right, friends, we are getting very, very close to last call for Splash Mountain. It will be toward the end of this month of May that Splash Mountain is going to splash away forever and begin its transformation into Tiana's Bayou Adventure. So be warned, you have until the 20-something. I should really have this in front of me. I'll put it up on the screen in front. Ah, there it is. There's the date. Last call to become a final rider of Splash Mountain. And I would anticipate that last day is going to be something to see. There'll probably be a decent amount of people here in the park. If it's anything like what happened out east at Walt Disney World, this will definitely be one of those community days as everybody says goodbye to an old friend, but hopefully welcomes in a new chapter in storytelling and inclusivity at the Disneyland Resort. It's something I'm looking forward to. It is going to be very interesting to see how much stays, how much goes, how they redirect the guests around.
Stop climbing.
It's going to be very interesting to see how this project plays out. It's going to be a big one, and it's going to take a while. And because I'm design-centric guy, I'm, just as curious about this back wall of Critter Country and what do they do to all the storytelling that exists back here. Not only do you have the old antiquated photography art studio, but then you also have this whole outer edge on the wall right here, the different structures on there that look like different critters live there. And then where these worker guys are going, this is one of the major fire escapes or exits of the Disneyland Resort, and where I believe one day, if Disneyland's ever to expand for Disneyland Forward, it would be through these gates of justice where that would happen. So I'm just as curious about all the little pieces and parts that flank around it as part of this transformation, and that'll be the angle that I'll be following it on. So join me if you'd like to see where it all goes and break it down from the designer's point of view. But if you look at it, the facade is just so large and there's so much texture and detail into all of this. I mean, just really like what a work of art from every little angle of it. So much storytelling put into this one attraction. I'm like, look at this little secret spot. Little secret spot. Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see how all of this looks when they're done with it. While it's broken down, I plan on doing a designer deep dive, but I feel like while it's broken down, I should take advantage of getting some clean shots of what so much of this looks like when it's not covered with folks looking to get in their final ride on this beloved Disneyland attraction. But just look at how well all of that has grown in over the years, and just what was set up to be a prop or a storytelling device, it's set here long enough that all the landscaping grew up around it and it became absolutely real. Like, it feels just completely real in every angle that we look at it. So yeah, definitely going to be doing a big designer deep dive on this, but I thought today, while I kind of have it to myself doing an unforeseen breakdown, why not capture some of this before it's covered in all kinds of fans trying to say goodbye. Man, it really is beautiful. I have my grievances with it, but if we just want to talk about a well-designed theme park attraction, it is definitely top tier. Just look at all the different layering that they've done to get guests up to the second row, but from an aesthetic, how that just creates all the different depth, all the different storytelling, to really make it feel like this old mill has just come to life, even though it's just a theme park attraction and a place to hold its, heavy queue on warm days. Just so much layering and well thought out design in here. Wow. Look at the perfect patina on those shutters. And just how all of the wood over the years, it just, you know, I'm sure at one time it was nice and shiny, kind of like how Star Wars Galaxy's Edge is nice and shiny. But when you build something to lean into its natural patina, it's funny how time only warms it up and sells the concept even better than how it looked on opening day. Hey, well, there's nobody here. Let's shoot away at some of these details that will soon be covered by tons of guests. Why not? I mean, look at that. Look at that stick to hold up the light with the acorn shield over the top. Look at all the natural brush that's collected over there on the side of that shed-like roof. There we have the second floor for the queue. But just look at all the stonework, the woodwork, the various old Deep South plantation farming equipment that's set everywhere. Really was a big part of Disneyland's history. It's going to be interesting to see it change and also see how people's attitudes change about this news after they've rode the new ride. Will it live up to the hype? Will it make people excited? Does Disney have another hit on their hands? Or is it going to be a big miss that people will forever talk about? That is to be determined. We can peer in and see that there's workers in there. But aside from that, just look at all of the faux rock work, clay work, to make it feel like you're actually going through the different caverns and caves of the structure, and then the Disneyland Railroad threads the needle right through the beginning of it. It's awesome. So many different layers. Wow, look at it with the sky up there today. That is beautiful. Kind of just been putting off documenting this and getting into all of it. Maybe I've been a little bit unfair because of the politics behind it. Look at that little hole in there. But as I'm looking at it today, just as an art piece, it really is something special. Really is something truly special. Look how tall the peak is from this side. That's amazing. And little Mr. Bluebird's house. Maybe, I don't know. He's also got a house over there. Phenomenal. I definitely do plan on doing a designer deep dive where I go through all the nooks, all the crannies. But I just realized, I'm like, hey, you idiot. It's absolutely empty right now. You're here, the sun's coming out. Why not film as much as possible while it's not covered in people? And I've kind of been hit with some nostalgia of just how great this ride is and what a marvel of theme park design it represents. So I'm excited about the change. I'm excited to see what happens, but I'm also excited to celebrate the end of this chapter in Disneyland's theme park design and storytelling, because Tony Baxter really knocked it out of the park with this one. And I guess knocked it out of the park, because technically they had to expand the park to put the ride in. You know, you can look at that however you want. Holy 2,000 flushes, Batman. Look at this. Tell me this doesn't look like toilet bowl blue. Wow, look at that. What is it, like 20,000 flushes? That is very, very blue. Man, I wish this little nighttime surprise show would come back. I'm over on the edge of Fantasyland next to Disneyland's ginormous, overly blue body of water that looks like a massive toilet bowl. Let's check out what's going on with the Matterhorn and a quick update on those 3 rides that are shutting down next month in that one building that we're calling Fantasyland building number 15. Let's do a little Fantasyland lap before we say goodbye this week. So after 45 days of being closed, it's now reported that Matterhorn is going to reopen on June 2nd. So if you have a trip planned out to the Disneyland Resort for the month of June, you should be able to get back on the Matterhorn, the Disneyland first mountain roller coaster and the world's first tubular steel roller coaster. We'll be back to taking rips around Matterhorn Mountain. And it is just so different without that waterfall greeting you as you come into Fantasyland. Because this is a Fantasyland attraction, the only Fantasyland thrill attraction, but man, just the sound of that waterfall and the monorail and going by, it just says you're home, baby. Here's another one of the waterfalls that I always enjoy walking past. Matterhorn's one of those attractions that I don't ride it every time I come to the park, but I do enjoy it every time I come to the park. You get what I'm saying? One of those. Kind of see a little bit of a keyhole there to create a little bit of depth and distance to make that bridge feel like it's further out from the mountain than what it is. And then we can see the staining of the water going down the front, which just shows that that's where the water goes. And with that staining in the background, it makes the water look even darker, creating that depth that is the Matterhorn. So I've seen this move before and it makes me curious. Do they just have this piece of wood that they keep backstage? It's like, all right, that's the Matterhorn lockdown, or do they each time just do a rough trace and cut it out with a handsaw to get that nice little edge to where they put up the construction wall? It always just makes me die laughing that somebody had to figure out how to get that cut in there. And now I'm thinking, I've seen them do this before. Do they use the same piece of wood? Or do this over and over again every time they close it up, which now seems to be an annual tradition. Now you can see there still is just a little bit of scaffolding left as they're still working on it to get it ready for next month. I do believe that there was more, but unfortunately the monorail is down. So this is going to be all that we can see it is from the ground, no aerial view inside of the fences this time. But you get a good idea that whatever they're doing is probably structural or doesn't seem like they're messing with the ride too much, which is why they can get it back up and going so quickly. All right, so 1 week later, we have a little bit more information about this building that houses 3 Fantasyland attractions. We have found out that on June 16th, Alice in Wonderland and then Mr. Toad that exists right inside of here, both of those are going to open on the 16th, going down on June 5th, reopening on June 16th, because we can now see in the Disneyland calendar the planned reopening dates or scheduled reopening dates. That could all change, obviously. But what's interesting is those 2 attractions live in this half of the building, but Peter Pan that lives in this half of the building is not scheduled to reopen. So it looks like whatever building-wide maintenance they're doing, they're going to be able to get it done on this half of the building first and then do the Peter Pan side last, which is fascinating because Peter Pan is by far a more popular attraction. So you feel like they would want to get Peter Pan done first and then move over to those, but maybe they're thinking 2 rides is better than 1. And look at this little detail on the light. Never noticed that before. So I definitely want to thank everybody for chiming in and giving their theories on what's going on with this building. And I want to thank a very polite cast member that chimed in to kind of let me know the design of these 3 attractions that exist in one building. But right now we know Toad and Alice will be opening up earlier. Peter Pan a little bit further down. Hopefully not too much further down for all of you that are coming out in June. And I'll keep following the story because I'm so fascinated what exactly would happen that would make them shut down 3 iconic attractions during the busy summer season. There you go, friends, from the edge of a closed down Matterhorn and a soon to close 3 historic attractions inside of Fantasyland next month. Thank you so much for taking a walk around Disneyland for this week's update, looking at all the different changes and projects that are going on. I'll see you back here soon if you decide to show up. Well, we can do it all over again. Thank you so much for being here. Consider subscribing to the channel.